everyone. My name is Shiraz. Welcome to Canada Business Talks. I'm a consulting editor here at Canadian SME Business Magazine and the founder of Leverage Consulting. You can find us at findyourleverage.ca. Canada Business Talks is for people who keep the vision strong of altering how business is done. We know the term as business disruptors, and that's who we intend on interviewing on a regular basis and bring their thoughts, ideas, and thought process really to the forefront so we can hear from business and industry leaders. Now, in this session, you'll learn how to adapt to the new normal, not because we know the path forward, but we're going to be speaking to someone today who has been through his share of challenges, and the principles that we're going to be able to extract from his overcoming nature will certainly inspire and empower us to overcome what we are in today. And we're hoping that we can, in partnership with our sponsors, Cisco, Lenovo, and RBC, continue to bring you content that will revolutionize and continue to keep your trajectory upwards for your business. First off, I would like to introduce Tino. Tino DeSantos is the Vice President of Business Markets and Sales Support in Southwestern Ontario region at RBC. Now, that's a long title, Tino. I know you're important because only important people get long titles. You focus on helping aspiring entrepreneurs for the small and mid-market companies to grow and establish their businesses. Now, you've held many roles over the years, and it's culminated into you being presented with many leadership awards because you serve not only your teams, but the community at large. Please welcome Tino DeSantos.
Well, thank you so much, Russ, for that invitation. And there's quite a bit of difference between that picture and the current look. Obviously, I need to go to the barber and get my fresh haircut and do. But anyways, great morning, everyone. My name is Tino DeSantos, and I'm the Vice President Business Markets for Southwestern Ontario at RBC. I am so pleased to be here on behalf of RBC to welcome you to the first of a series of business talks hosted by the Canadian SME Magazine. Over the past few months, COVID-19 has disrupted our economic, social, and personal lives at an unprecedented speed and scale. The uncertainty and upheaval has weighed upon many Canadians, including a disproportionate number of small business owners and entrepreneurs, but we also know that Canadian entrepreneurs are among one of the most resilient and passionate, serving as the backbone of our economy through years of prosperity and challenging moments like these. While the prospects of reopening businesses is a promising start, we know the road to economic recovery will take months and years. And it will take continued collaboration between governments, financial institutions, and businesses to stand together and support one another so that we can emerge stronger together. That's a big reason why RBC committed to sponsoring the Business Talks series. Beyond the critical financial support and relief needed to get back on your feet, we know that it is equally important for you to hear about different perspectives, stories, resources, and tips to help you navigate entrepreneurship in this very different world we live in today. We are so thrilled to see Canadian SME Magazine take the lead in bringing thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and co-sponsors, Lenovo and Cisco, together to create this very, very important forum. We hope these engaging conversations will deliver great insights and inspirations to help you successfully navigate a post-COVID future, whatever that looks like. For today's event, we're excited to have David Patchell-Evans, or Patch Evans, founder and CEO of GoodLife Fitness, join us to share his journey as an entrepreneur. I look forward to hearing about the signals he has paid attention to over time to help guide his success. And I'm sure we will also hear about how he is responding to the challenges of our current environment. Once again, I'd like to thank Canadian SME Magazine, our co-sponsors, Lenovo and Cisco, and all of you for joining us today for a program that uncovers and celebrates inspiring stories and individuals like Patch Evans who make them real. With that, I'd like to hand it over back to you, Shiraz.
Thank you, Tino, and thank you, RBC, for your continuous support. I would like to introduce Patch, founder and CEO of the largest fitness club chain in Canada. He also operates clubs across the world as far as New Zealand, believe it or not. GoodLife's first location opened in 1979 in London, Ontario, and has since grown to more than 400 locations. I mean, if that doesn't rival McDonald's, I don't know what does, or actually battles McDonald's for the health of. Anyways, moving on, including brands like Fit4Less and ÉconoFitness. With 1.5 million members, and it employs more than 10,000 associates. Patch and GoodLife have received over 25 national and international awards, including International Iconic Brand Award, Canada's Best Managed Companies, Canada's Best Gym, and Canada's Most Admired CEO. Patch is also the president of canfitpro, an organization, by the way, he founded for various reasons. And he's also the past chair of IHRSA. He was the chair of the board of directors. Now, as a chair, IHRSA is a global leader in health, and representing more than 78 countries. So certainly, when we speak about his international prowess, to lead an organization as the chair of the board of directors that represents 78 countries, that's the type of person we'll be speaking to today. But like the Ronco commercials, wait, there is more. He's a two-time best-selling author, an award-winning entrepreneur, a 5-time Canadian rowing champion. Now, in 2012, Patch received an honorary doctorate of law, doctorate of law degree from Western University. In every arena, there is this pinnacle and an all-time achievement. We'll know it in sports as the Hall of Fame. Well, in this year, 2020, David Patchell-Evans will be inducted into the Canadian Business Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Patchell-Evans.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Thank you so much, Shiraz. That was beautiful. And I don't think you planned this, but all your sponsors I do business with. So, and they're all great companies. And as Tino was talking, my company's based in London, Ontario, which is Southwestern Ontario. And I was thinking about how the Royal had my back through a couple of different recessions, depressions. I remember when the interest rates were 24%. And they wondered, how are you going to survive this? You figure out how to survive everything. So it's all good. So,
well, I thank you for being with us, Patch. I'm going to jump right in with ask a number of questions. What I would like to let you know, audience, there is a button in your control panel where you can pose some questions. And we're hoping to get to some of your questions today. So as questions pop up, feel free to write them in the chat, and we'll certainly try our best to get to them. So Patch, we're back in the late 70s. Where did the idea and motivation come from to launch GoodLife Fitness?
It's interesting how it happened. Is in first year university, I had this really bad motorcycle accident. I basically ripped off the right-hand side of my body. My right shoulder used to be 3 or 4 inches lower than my left, and I was classified as permanently disabled. And I took physio and then fitness training to get back into shape and to build it back up. And I switched from the business program to the physical education kinesiology program. And because using fitness gave me my life back, I became like, I want to give this to other people. I want to share what I got. And one of the things I happened to do to build my shoulder back up was I took up the sport of rowing, because I was kind of bent over like this. So I'll row on this side and build it back up. And so that worked. And I became pretty good at rowing. And even when I went to the Olympics in it, unfortunately I was boycotted. But even something like the boycott teaches you resilience, right? How do you bounce back? And 6 months before the boycott, well, actually a year before the boycott, the national rowing team sent me to this fitness club to work out. It said, use this equipment to help you get in better shape faster. And the equipment worked. We still have the equipment in the clubs. But the guy who ran the club thought it was an easy way to make money, but he didn't actually understand, and he was a great guy, but he didn't understand that you have to deliver a different kind of product to people. So it's not just about putting the equipment there, you have to change people's lives using the equipment. And that's what I brought to the picture. So I had a background as a high-level athlete, background academically for it. And so I got into it in the late 70s because I believed I could change people's lives. Unfortunately, I didn't know a whole lot about business. But I put myself to university running a snowplowing business. And running that snowplowing business provided the money until I could learn how to run a retail business. So I lost a lot of money until I figured out all the sales techniques, the service techniques that would allow me to not to take my passion and make it practical. So it wasn't enough just to care. I had to be practical at it.
So I want to make sure I understand this process, this properly, so we can pull out a learning. Your focus wasn't on your product. Your focus was on the impact and the benefit of the product to your customers.
Exactly. No one cares what you're selling. Everyone cares what it does for them. So the key is, what problem are you going to solve for that person? And they may not even know they have a problem, and it's your job to educate them about the opportunity, right? Like, people might not know that they're unfit or that it affects the quality of their life. When you wake them up to how good they could feel, how long they could live, how much energy they could have, how much vitality they could have, then they kind of go, whoa, I didn't know about that. Tell me more. What do I have to do to get it? So it's not about what you do, it's about the difference you make.
Okay. And in this time, a lot of people are recalibrating, refocusing, relaunching, refiring. There's a lot of re's happening right now. So for most Canadian business owners, these are probably the most challenging times they have ever faced in their life. Now, Patch, you describe a dislocated shoulder. How do you row with a dislocated shoulder as part of your physical makeup? How did you do the things that you did when you had to run a snow plowing business to fund your dream, which was to help as many people as possible physically? Can you describe the mental makeup and the other ways that it takes to overcome challenges?
So we put it on our t-shirts at GoodLife, and it's my core belief is, don't let the things you can't do stop you from doing the things you can. Don't let the things you can't do stop you from doing the things you can. So, when my the idea behind rowing was, what sport would be the greatest challenge to building my arm and shoulder? Because it was like, I ripped my deltoid off, I ripped my pec off, I broke my arm, I broke my clavicle. So what would be the biggest challenge? It was similar. Years ago, we brought in Les Mills fitness classes into our company. And there's a whole bunch of different fitness classes, and they're all fantastic. And I used to teach fitness classes at the start, but I wanted to reinvigorate myself in fitness classes. So I thought, what would be the hardest class for me to teach? So I picked the one that combines yoga and Tai Chi, because flexibility wasn't my key strength, right? meditation wasn't my key strength, you know? And by learning to teach that, is I got a greater awareness of what everyone has to learn. So don't let the things you can't do stop you from doing the things you can. Just try harder.
Okay, thank you for that. If you were to apply that to the concept of entrepreneurship, I mean, when you have to start off being your own accountant, you're also the cook and the baker, and you mow your own lawn, and you're in charge of sales and marketing. There's so many hats that you're always wearing all the time if you're a smaller outfit. How would you define entrepreneurship in terms of what it takes to get to the other side?
So you have to begin with the end in mind. And just first of all, one thing I would encourage every entrepreneur out there to do right now is write down when they're going to have a holiday. Number one thing, write down when you're going to have a holiday. And I don't care if it's a 1-day or a 7-day holiday. And if you got children, write down when you're going to spend some time with your kids. And make sure you get that holiday and make sure you have time with your kids. So why am I saying that? Because you will work as hard as you need to work if you have a prize at the end. And guys, ladies, the prize cannot be money. The prize has to be satisfaction. The prize has to be doing something well. Because the target of money just keeps changing. You know, at first it's to have 1,000, then it's to have 100,000, then it's to have 1 million, then it's to have 10 million. That target just keeps changing. But the target that's important is how you feel inside. So when you run your business, one of the targets you should have is, how do I want this to make me feel? You know, at the end of the day, how will I feel? And then you set your target for your business with the end in mind is, okay, I'll give you a simple example. You want to run a 10-kilometer race and you've never run in your life. And the 10-kilometer race might be in 6 weeks, or it might be in 6 months. So on that day, I'm going to do this. And the week ahead of that, I'm going to do that. And the 2 months ahead of that, I'm going to do this. And you break it down by goals. So take your business the same way. My goal for my business is to make X amount and spend this amount of time with my family, this amount of time with my friends, and work backwards. So now you have 2 things in mind, the end goal and the intermediate rewards.
Okay.
How am I going to feel emotionally? How am I going to feel financially? How am I going to spend my time off? If all you do is think about how hard you need to work, you won't be successful.
Thank you for that. And if my family is listening, mid-August, we're going on vacation. I got to book that right away. So I got to jump on that one right away. So my wonderful wife, we are going on vacation mid-August for sure. How would you differ between entrepreneurship and innovation then?
Okay, entrepreneurship. So innovation is figuring out something new and different that you can apply.
Okay.
You know, here's a great idea, right? But there are thousands of ideas. There are millions of ideas. An entrepreneur makes an idea a reality. And you do that by a combination of tenacity, skill, never giving up, figuring out a different way to present it, and being able to turn around, right? It's like, here's this cool idea, here's this innovative idea, but how do I make it come to life? So if a member comes into the club, and I have a standard way of looking at talking to most people about how to get them in shape, and they say, oh, by the way, I have MS. All your standards out of the box, right? You have to deal with their particular issues. Well, actually, every member has their particular issues. Every member has a different history. Every member's body is just a little bit different. Their attitude is just a little bit different. Well, every innovation needs to be nurtured like every member. You know, you can take the basic keys of being a personal trainer or teaching a class. Yeah, you have a standard protocol, but from then it's how do you make the protocol work for the individual? So you can have an idea, and the entrepreneur twists the idea to satisfy the needs of the potential customers. And you keep moving it so you get the most customers or the highest value customer. You know, whether you're a commodity or an experience. Most customers or the highest value customer. You know, whether you're a commodity or an experience.
How would you then marry the thought of innovation to challenges that you've experienced in your own life and personal life? Because right now, more than ever, we are all experiencing a moment where everyone there's almost a demand to innovate. How can we innovate through tough times? What are the signs? What are we looking for? What are we trying to read right now?
So the number one thing you can innovate right now is your own capacity and capabilities. So I've written a thing called the Leader's 21-Day Guide to Resilience. And it's going to be released in 2 days, and it's free. Right? And I'll give you the code. It's www.goodlifefitness.com/resilience.
And sorry to interrupt you, Patch. For all those attending, we're certainly going to directly send you that link, so you'll have access to that resource immediately. So following this call, we'll certainly get that link out to everyone directly.
And so it was designed to answer your question, is 21 days, 21 minutes. The old thing is 21 days makes a habit. I don't know if that's true, but it seems nice, right? But the idea is fill up your own cup. You're the entrepreneur, your cup keeps getting drained. Everyone's coming to you, and you feel this innate need to solve every problem. You need to pour some water in your own cup. You need to fill it up, right? It's not a whole lot different than knowing when your holidays is going to be. But on a daily basis, you have to think, how do I put money, emotions, energy aside to build myself up so I've always got something for everybody else? Because as the entrepreneur, you're the leader, right? And whether it's just yourself, whoever you're selling to counts on you to be the leader. So no matter what, as an entrepreneur, you are influencing an untold amount of people. And your example influences a whole bunch of people. And so it's not the size of your business, it's the size of your heart. You know, so you can have a one-on-one business that influences thousands of people over your lifetime. And like we have 1.5 million members. I know every one of those 1.5 million members influences other people. So their example. So by choosing to be an entrepreneur, you're choosing to affect change in society. So you got to fill your own cup.
One of the ways that you're passionate about having individuals fill their cup is to invest in their health. And you strongly feel, from personal experience as well, and of those stories of your members, that if you invest in your own health, that carries out in so many different ways. Let's talk about that for a minute. Also in terms of right now across the country, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Patch, across the country, some of your locations have opened up while some provinces are not able to open up as of just yet. Because we have an audience that are listening from across the country, as we can see some of the cities that people have logged in from. We're speaking to people across the country right now. What are you experiencing right now? Who is and who isn't? Or sorry, provinces that are open, and what can we do for provinces that are closed? How do we then invest in our health?
So one of the things we did as a company is we pivoted very quickly when the government said you had to close. We created digital experiences that would help people work out in their homes. You know, from how to do fitness classes to how to do strength training, HIIT programs, high intensity training programs in their homes, right? Some people have very small spaces, right? Not everybody has the, you know, the television version of a home gym, right? In fact, hardly anybody does. Most of us are in more cramped spaces. So we try to give people lots of options that way. In fact, the engagement of our members is higher now than it was before COVID, because, you know, we looked after them.
Wow.
But this is helping when we open in different provinces. We're actually finding the retention of members has gone up, and new people are joining even faster. Because what people are aware of now more than ever is that their health is their own job, right? The hospital helps you overcome sickness. Your job is to create the health so you don't get sick. And
Wow.
if you do get sick, to be as strong and healthy as possible to deal with the sickness. I mean, any surgeon will tell you that they much prefer to operate on someone who's of reasonable body weight versus someone who's overweight, because the complications are much higher, right? The complications with COVID are much higher if you're overweight. So by being in shape physically, which is not just how much you weigh, but how you feel about yourself, how your energy is, you know, how your circulatory system is working. You know, when you exercise on a regular basis, your mental health is 20, 25% or higher better. All these things help you. And so we're finding that when we open our clubs that people are coming back and they're quite happy. You know, and people have fear. They have fear, well, what if I get sick from going out? Like, they just go out, let alone go in a club. What if I get sick from going out? So we created the GoodLife Standard and Protocol. It's like a 45-page manual of how we keep our clubs clean. So we can show it to people. They come in the clubs and they see how it is. And for what it does for them is reinforces for them it's a safe place to look after their health. And if you have a business out there, you probably, if you're listening, you have a business. Make people feel safe, and then they'll come to you, right? Whether it's a restaurant or a dry cleaning place, it's like, make me feel comfortable coming there. Because yeah, some people come no matter what you do. That's not enough business. You want to have everyone come. You want to have everyone feel comfortable, right? Accidents can happen. People could get sick at your establishment, but if you minimize that risk, you maximize your opportunity for success. So, you know, if we're going to get through this, and we are going to get through it, let's be rational, realistic about it, and not, we can't like go, oh, it's not going to happen to me. No, it's going to happen to all of us. Let's minimize how much it happens. Let's help society in general. That's our job, running a business, right?
Thank you. I want to completely switch gears, and I might have this wrong, Patch. I might have this wrong, but is it possible, and I don't know if this is possible, okay, is it possible to triangulate between Hawaii, Fleetwood Mac, and a restaurant? Is that at all possible? Because I've been hearing something, and is that possible? And if it is, could you please complete that equation for us? What do they have to do with each other?
It was kind of funny. I have a combined family. My wife, Silken Lauman, runs Unsinkable and is a speaker, and she had 2 children. I had 2 children. We tried to bring them together. We went to Hawaii and had a nice vacation in Hawaii. Happened to meet Fleetwood Mac there. And Fleetwood goes, oh, you guys are like the energetic power couple. You know, she was a 4-time Olympian, right? And, you know, she's a power unto herself. And so, long story short, we got along. And he was opening up a restaurant, and we invested in the restaurant. And that's how we connected. And then the next time I ran into Fleetwood Mac was in England. I was there visiting some friends. My son was rowing over there, and they were going to go to a Fleetwood Mac concert. So I happened to phone him up. I said, any chance I can get some tickets? He said, oh yeah, no problem. So it's kind of funny, right? He's the only rock star I really know.
I still think it's a fantastic story that you found other opportunities and outlets for your entrepreneurial flair, and now you own a restaurant. You're part owner of a restaurant in Hawaii.
Well, you know, I own about 25 different businesses. Like I own a little 10% of a chain called Dogtopia, which is an American-Canadian chain of dog spas, right? With a guy named Peter Thomas who used to run Remax Realty in Canada. And I own some IT companies, TI companies, whatever you want to call them. And I have fitness businesses in Australia and New Zealand and stuff over in Europe. So when you get around a little bit, you meet really interesting people. And so stuff happens, man.
Well, it doesn't just happen to the average person. I think you have to, what you said earlier, you have to actually take advantage of them and put your ideas to action. One of your definitions of entrepreneurs. Now, the reason why I'm going to Hawaii, because I want to keep on traveling in that direction and land in New Zealand. Can you tell us about what you're doing in New Zealand? Now, as a small business owner myself and all the other small business owners that are on this call right now, the idea is, there's this dream, there's an ideal that perhaps we will be able to reach more and more people with our product, service, or idea. You've been able to transcend once you establish yourself on our native land here in Canada. You transcended that. You're also applying your gift to New Zealand. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
New Zealand was a total accident. I had a friend who had a business there who I loaned money to. And because of various circumstances, he wasn't able to run his business anymore in New Zealand. He had to leave. And to realize the money back that I'd put into New Zealand, I had to take over these fitness clubs. Then taking what I learned in Canada, applying it to the clubs in New Zealand, started with 16 clubs about 4 years ago. Now there's 38, 39 of them. So, I mean, it's really taking what I learned somewhere else and applying it to different circumstances. And the interesting thing about New Zealand is people are totally care about people. So when you come in there and you're totally open and there's no hidden agenda, it's just like, the number one core value of GoodLife and Fit4Less and ÉconoFitness is caring. And when we brought that to City Fitness in New Zealand, instead of it becoming a business venture, it became a caring venture. That's what transformed the business. And so, Canadians are known to care, and our businesses really represent that. And so even though I'm going into a different culture, they still look at you in the eye and they get it. When I teach our people about how to run our business, I said, when you meet someone, before you meet someone, decide you like them.
Okay.
Right?
You're going to have to explain that a little bit more.
Sure. So when I first started my business, I realized I didn't know anything about, it didn't take me long to figure out, I've been selling my snowplow business based on passion. I'm going to snowplow your driveway. I'm going to do the best. It's always going to be done on time. And if I work really hard, I get done. When I started the fitness club business, that got the real athletic people joining. So when I first started, all the athletes joined my clubs. But I was trying to think, how do I get people who are non-athletes in? And actually, I was intimidating to those people, right? So that how do I make a person who isn't an athlete get the best out of their life? So I took a whole bunch of motivational, self-development, sales-oriented awareness courses so that I could learn how to connect in a way that I hadn't been taught how to connect, right? And one of the key things I learned about that is how your body language affects people and how your attitude affects people. And so I thought, it's not about what I know, It's about what I feel. Because I had left my master's in exercise physiology to start my clubs up. As an athlete, it's like push, 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 right? But if I'm talking to you and you've never worked out, you don't care about those things. You care about yourself. You should. How can you help me? So I took all these courses to learn how to connect. And the most important thing I learned was decide you like someone before you meet them.
Wow.
Right? Because most of us, our DNA is to be scared. That's how we survived in the wild, right? We're programmed to be fearful first. And what I encourage people to be is connected first. And even if it's someone you maybe should fear, if they sense that you care about them, they have no reason to fear you.
Patch, the thoughts that you're sharing right now are the very same principles that I teach with Leverage Consulting, our sales consultancy, to help people grow their customer base. So thank you very much for sharing the fact that, hey, let's be more open to more people more often. One of the embarrassing things that happened to me over the past couple of months anyways is, yes, everyone was required to social distance, but there was no social distancing required on smiles. And people weren't smiling. Like, you couldn't walk by me on the street without smiling. There was no quarantine on smiling. And just to your point about, hey, we're all in this together and we're going to get through this together. Now, I just wanted to take a quick look here. We have a number of questions that are COVID related, that speak to how to deal with challenges in these times, right? And it's almost becoming the same question and that comes up again and again and again. How do we? At the same time, there's also this thought of fatigue when it comes to dealing with COVID-19, and how do we? I don't want to hear it anymore, but we're not all the way through it. We have to get through. What would you say to those who are still trying to figure out how to deal with these times, but maintain that consistency and that persistent nature that it takes to get through to the other side? What would you say to those folks?
Okay, let's think about the worst that could happen. Right? So that's an athletic mindset. It's also the mindset of an entrepreneur. It's also the mindset of a high achiever, right? It's also the mindset of a high level caregiver. What's the worst that can happen? How we make it better, right? So the worst that can happen is that everyone gets COVID. More people die.
Okay.
Business changes forever. It's part of our life. And if you want to see how bad this is, do what I did. Let's go back in history and look at what happened in 1919. What happened with the bubonic plague? I don't even know if I pronounced it right. The fall of the Roman Empire was caused in part by plagues, right? So if you look back in history, this isn't a first timer. It's just a first timer in our lifetimes. Like if I go back in history, I'm the first male in the history of my families that didn't have to go to war.
Wow.
How lucky am I? Right? How lucky are we that we haven't had this kind of thing? Our clubs, we dealt with SARS 10 or so years ago in Toronto. But I mean, this is something that's gone around the globe, right?
Yeah.
So that's the worst case scenario. So what's the best case scenario? And what are all the stages in between? Now, as soon as you've looked at the worst case scenario, everything else is better. Right? So I used to climb mountains, right? So when you go climbing, one of the most important things to have is a watch and to say, I'm turning around at this time. No matter what, I'm turning around at this time.
Okay.
Otherwise, you die. Because sooner or later, you'll push it, right? Now, when you look at, you know, a hill, a mountain, it's like, how am I going to get up there? If I get hurt, how do I get out? If you do that planning ahead of time, the likelihood of you getting hurt is lower, right? So if you get the worst case scenario with COVID, if that's the worst case scenario, what do I do, right? So in our business, we had the GoodLife standard of fitness, of how to run the clubs. Pretty, like, all this stuff we're doing. We didn't have to do all that stuff, but we know that if we do all that stuff, it covers the worst case scenario. Then if it gets better, right? So if in your individual businesses, you say, what's the worst case scenario here? You know, how would I supply dry cleaning to people if I'm a dry cleaner? You know, do I deliver it? What do I do, right? Do they need dry cleaning? Right?
Gotcha.
How do I adapt? You know?
Yeah.
So
now, we've had, at last count now, we had 19 questions that were COVID related. My producer is speaking in my ear right now. We had 19 COVID related questions. Obviously, it's something that a lot of people want to talk about and speak about. I just want to speak to the audience just for a quick moment. Canadian Business SME Magazine, we have a lot of resources, so feel free to connect with us afterwards, and we'll certainly be able to share a lot of different resources with you. Two quick rapid fire questions.
If you want, we'll give you our manual. So
now, we've had, at last count now, we had 19 questions that were COVID related. My producer is speaking in my ear right now. We had 19 COVID related questions. Obviously, it's something that a lot of people want to talk about and speak about. I just want to speak to the audience just for a quick moment. Canadian Business SME Magazine, we have a lot of resources, so feel free to connect with us afterwards, and we'll certainly be able to share a lot of different resources with you. Two quick rapid fire questions.
If you want, we'll give you our manual, and anybody can access it.
That's fantastic, because one of the questions that came up specifically for you was innovative disinfectants. And you know the roles of ultraviolet lights and other elements like that have, people are asking if you know of any innovative ways to clean surfaces. And so your manual will certainly go a long way. Guys, for the audience, this is the value that we get from speaking with somebody like Patch, who's so generous in his nature. And I assure you, when he was speaking earlier about taking care of your health, one of the things that it becomes very obvious, he built his business on care, not the example that he gave earlier about signing up memberships. So Patch, when you were speaking about the one individual in the 70s who you went to the gym and you could tell he was just trying to sign up people as members, I think there's a big difference. And if you treat your businesses the same way, where you care about your customers, that'll resonate with them, and they'll tell people and they'll tell people. Two quick questions for you here, Patch. What book would you recommend for small business owners to be reading that has meant something for you?
I tell them to read my book.
There you go.
Living the Good Life. It's for free at any club. And then probably the best book I know of is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
And then I'd also recommend The 4 Agreements by a guy named Ruiz, which teaches people what's the meaning of life and what it is. I'd recommend many books by Robin Sharma. His 5 a.m. Club book is good to get you thinking, you know, different. Robin's from Toronto, right? Stuff by Brian Tracy, another, you know, Canadian. You know, I think that's a good start.
Thank you. It's interesting, the first 2 books that you mentioned and what you will be rolling out, and for the audience who will be making that resource available to you on our site and in other ways, your 21-day program, they all speak to the concept of not necessarily what to do, but what to be. And when you know who you are, you kind of know what you are going to do. So thank you for always investing in the Canadian small business sphere with thought ideation. We really appreciate that, Patch. A specific question though, when you do serve your community. It kind of diverts from making profits. Now, I'm not making that as a statement, but that is a thought that is being presented. How do you balance, and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask on behalf of the audience, how do you balance serving a community with the absolute need as a small business to make sure that, to ensure you're, generating profitability to pay for your bills and pay for your staff and everything else that comes with running a small business? How do you balance that?
Well, historically, there's always, depending on what religion you're from or environment you're from, but people always said 10 to 20% of what you got, right? So it doesn't have to be 10% money. It could be 10% of your time. It could be 20% of your time. I've always, probably got it from my mother who's 100 years old. Like, you might not have anything to give, but you can give your time. You can share a meal. Like, I grew up very poor, and we used to have on holidays, other people come and share our holidays with us, right? Because they had less, right? And they especially didn't have someone else. So you can always share, you can always give a little bit that way. And things come back to you. It's not the intention, but they come back. Like, I remember with the Special Olympics, the first Winter Special Olympics happened in London, Ontario. And, I'd gone to university, first year university, I thought, I'll go volunteer for this thing. And then the gentleman that I spent the day with had Downs, and we had a great day together, and I was talking about it at dinner, and the woman across from me goes, what was his name? I said, and he says, that was my brother.
Oh, wow.
Right? And then fast forward, we became friends. Her husband and I became friends. And fast forward 20 years later, my first child has autism. And she became one of the people that helped me.
Wow.
Right? And so, and all along, I had an affinity for that special needs community. And then I get lucky enough to have a child with autism. And I get to learn about this, and I given a lot back to that area. And all that's happened from once I stopped saying, okay, how do I handle this, to thinking, what a present I got. Right? Things get better. So when you give, you get. You can't be your intention of giving, but what happens is your heart gets bigger and your emotions get bigger, and things you don't know will happen to you. Like, life just improves, right? And life can't be just about money, because you can end up with a huge wallet and no satisfaction. So there was a gentleman I met. People in Toronto probably have heard of Joe Rotman School of Business and stuff, right? And when I turned 60, he took, he presented me with my honorary PhD. And he says, come see me, let's talk for an afternoon. So my 60th birthday, I went to see him. And he told me how his life got better when at 60, he just spent most of his energy giving things away. And that was a real life story for me, right? So all of us, all the time, can give some time and energy to others, right?
So what I'm hearing, Patch, is it's something that we should bake into our lifestyle. It's something that should be a part of our rhythm, not necessarily business oriented. What I'm hearing is you don't necessarily have to choose between the two.
No, in fact, don't even think of business as life. When you think of business as business, if you're an entrepreneur, business is not business. Business is your life.
Gotcha.
Right? You are your business. I am my business, right?
What we'd like to do is quickly, first of all, thank RBC and Tino and his team for helping put together these forums. And RBC also has a number of resources, and we're going to make them available to everyone, and we encourage you to visit RBC. Lenovo as well has a number of resources to help small businesses right now. And Cisco specifically has an opportunity for small businesses to benefit from a kit valued at about $3,000. And This kit will help you for working from home, cybercrime protection, and set up your office at home as well. So please visit Cisco as well. We wanted to thank all of our attendees on behalf of myself, Shiraz Sadiq, consulting editor for Canadian SME Business Magazine. We wanted to thank everyone. And Tino, thank you again for making the time. Patch, I have a feeling we'll be connecting again because we had about 44 unique questions that went unanswered. So I think next time I'll do a little less talking and we'll make sure that more questions get answered. Thank you everyone for making the time. Tino, Patch, thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Tino.